Hey, welcome. Let's figure out how to wire up a motor controller so the Arduino board can get this robot in motion. Let's take a look at what the robot looks like so far. We have 6 AA's, so 6 times 1.5 is 9 volts. And then we have a 2.1 millimeter barrel plug coming out. And we have 2 gearhead motors. And the gearhead motors, well, the motor's right here. And then there's this train of gears that goes up here. So the motors actually spin pretty fast. And then this gear reduction slows the rotation down and gives the wheels more torque. Then there are 2 wire connections to these motors. And then I've soldered on these connecting wires that have pins at the end. Okay. Now the motor controller is right here. And then we have the Arduino, of course. And it's plugged into the USB cable. So that's what's providing it power right now. And we're running Blink, of course, because when you start an Arduino session, you should always just run Blink first to make sure everything's going well. Now I'm going to unplug this. And now the Arduino doesn't have power anymore. So I'd like to be able to use this external battery pack to provide power to the Arduino. But we also need to provide power to the motor controller. You see, these motors, they aren't super big, but they're going to draw more current than the pins of the Arduino can really provide safely. And so what we need to do is provide an additional source of power. So that additional source of power is going to come from the battery pack. Now I've got these 2 connectors. This is also a 2.1 millimeter barrel. And this is a 2.1 millimeter jack. So what we've done here is we sort of have a makeshift thing going on. These are also called pigtails, and they're twisted together, red to red and black to black. So if you take a look, what we can do is plug this barrel into this jack, and they are twisted together right here. So this is the VCC side of the motor controller, and this is ground. And coming out of it, I have the 2.1 millimeter jack that can plug into the Arduino. So this way we can provide enough current to drive the motor controller, and we can also power the Arduino without being connected to the computer. So let's see what that looks like. Here we go. And here we go. So now Blink starts to run again, which is great. And the motor controller is not really doing anything because it has a separate power controller. This is really a nice feature. Some of the motor drivers that use this H-Bridge will not have a separate on-off switch. But this one's a little fancy. You can see it's even got a pin for a stepper motor here too. All right, well, here we go. I'm just going to check and make sure if I hit this button and I can see the motor controller's on, so everybody's happy and has power. Now, what I want to do is be able to connect the motor controller so I can get things starting to work. What I'm going to need is a screwdriver, a slotted screwdriver, kind of small. If you can't find one around the house, you could probably get, a blunt knife or something like that to work. So what I'm going to do is take the wires that come off the motor and I'm going to connect them into each one of the outputs. So you can see these are labeled out A, out B, out C, out D. So I'm going to connect this first one to out C. And these screw down terminals are sort of like, I think of them as like garage doors. So I need to open the garage door first and then close the garage door as I clamp down on it. And you can give them a tug. They should definitely be able to stay in there. Same thing on the other side. Let's take a closer look at that screw down terminal. Right, so there's the garage door right there. Now I use the same color wires here, but honestly, I'll tell you a little secret about motor control is that we want to be able to control forward and backward motion. And there are so many ways that you can flip things around. So I'm not even going to worry about the order in which these wires are connected, because it's only really when I start to run some software and start to tell the motors to go forward and backward that I can actually tell if they're doing the right thing or not. So we're not going to worry at all about which wire goes into what slot. But it does make sense if my direction of motion is this way, because I'm just going to drag this end. My motion is this way, so that makes this left motor, this right motor. Right motor into outputs C and D, and left motor into outputs A and B. All right, now I'm all set to connect to the Arduino. In order to do that, I'm going to need some hookup wires. And I've chosen hookup wires that have, looks like I'm going to want, since I have pins here, I'm going to connect to these control pins right here. And since I'm going to be connecting to those pins, I'm going to want hookup wires that are socket on one end and pin on the other. Okay, I'm going to pause this video at this point.